Guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Study with Dr. Pranik. Today we will discuss chapter from obstetrics, antenatal care, preconception counseling and care. So let's begin with our chapter systematic supervision of a woman during pregnancy is called antenatal care. Systematic supervision is examination and advice. The supervision should be regular and periodic in nature according to the need of the individual. Actually, prenatal care is the care is in continuum that starts before pregnancy and ends at delivery and the postpartum period. Antenatal care comprises of two parts: careful history taking and examinations, advice given to the pregnant woman. Aims and objectives. Aims are to first to screen the high risk cases. Second, to prevent or detect and treat the earliest any complications. To ensure continued risk assessment and to provide ongoing primary preventive health care. 4. To educate the mother about the physiology of pregnancy and labor by demonstration chart and diagram, so that fear is removed and psychologically is improved. To discuss the couple about the place, time, and mode of delivery, provisionally and care of the newborn. To motivate the couple about the need of family planning and also appropriate advice to couples seeking medical termination of pregnancy. Objective: to ensure a normal pregnancy with delivery of a healthy baby from a healthy mother. Criteria of a normal pregnancy are delivery of a single baby in a good condition at term with a fetal weight 2.5 kg or more with no maternal complication. As such, normal pregnancy is retrospective term. So, when female come for first visit, what are the procedures we have to follow? So, next topic about that: procedure at the first visit. The first visit should not be deferred beyond the second missed period. It may be earlier if the patient desires to terminate the pregnancy. Objective: objective for first visit: to assess the health status of the mother and fetus, to assess the fetal gestational age and to obtain baseline investigations. Third, to organize continued obstetric care and risk assessment. Components of routine prenatal care are recorded in a standardized pro forma antenatal record book. History taking. Vital history statistics. Name. Just for example, we take some names like Sita, or we can take Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. Date of first examination. So we can consider today is the first examination date. Today is the first C come today for his first examination. So 20 August, 2 August, 2 August 2021. Address: New York. Okay. Age. A woman having her first pregnancy at the age of 30 or above is called elderly primigravida. Extreme of ages, teenage and elderly are obstetric risk factor. Gravida and priority. Gravida denotes the pregnant state both present and past, irrespective of the period of gestation. Priority denotes a state of previous pregnancy beyond the period of viability. What is period of viability? Important point. Period of viability is a period which is beyond 20 weeks or more, okay, of pregnancy. Gravida and para refer to pregnancy only, not to the babies. As such, a woman who delivers twins in first pregnancy is still a gravida one and para one. A pregnant woman with a previous history of 2 abortions and 1 term delivery can be expected as a fourth gravida but primary para. It is customary in clinical practice to summarize the past obstetric history by 2 digits connected with a plus sign affixing the letter P. Thus, P2 plus 1 denotes the patient had 2 viable births and 1 abortion. In some centers, it is expressed by the digit connected by dashes P, A, B, C, D, where A denotes number of term pregnancies, B number of preterm pregnancies, C number of miscarriages, D the number of children alive at present. A pregnant woman with a previous history of 4 birth or more is called grand multipara. Terminologies. These are important terminologies important for this whole book, or I mean to say ops and gynae, both for both the subject. These terminologies are repeatedly asked. Terminologies. A nullipara. Nullipara is one who has never completed a pregnancy to the stage of viability. She may or may not have aborted previously. Primipara is one who have delivered one viable child. Parity is not increased even if the fetuses are many. A multigravida is one who has previously been pregnant. She may have aborted or have delivered a viable baby. A parturient is a woman in labor. Nulligravida is one who is not now and never have been pregnant. A primigravida is one who is pregnant for the first time. Multipara is one who has completed 2 or more pregnancy to the stage of viability or more. A pure para is a woman who has just given birth. Duration of marriage. This is relevant to note that fertility and fecundity, a pregnancy long after marriage without taking recourse to any method of contraception, is called low fecundity, and soon after marriage is called high fecundity. A woman with low fecundity is unlikely to conceive frequently. Religion gave us a clue about what type of reasons. Just like if Muslims are there, they have other some types of behavior, particular behavior in which means Muslims have too many childrens, okay, as compared to Hindu and Christians. So our patient is eligible. It seems to be Christian, but it is not necessary. that she should be a Christian. Okay, but she tells us that she is Christian, so I return Christian. Okay, don't go for spellings, grammar mistake. Okay, English is a tool, not a subject. I am delivering my knowledge with my tool. Okay, occupation. It is helpful in interpreting. It is helpful in interpreting. It is helpful in interpreting symptoms of fatigue due to excess physical work or stress or occupational hazards. Such women should be informed to reduce such activities. Occupations of the husband. A fair idea about the socioeconomic condition of the patient can be assessed. This is knowledge is of valuable. First point about the to anticipate the complications likely to be associated with low social status such as anemia, preeclampsia, prematurity. B. To give reasonable and realistic antenatal advice during family planning guidance. Period of gestation. Duration of pregnancy is to be expressed in terms of completed weeks. A fraction of a week of more than 3 days is to be considered a physical as completed week. In calculating the week of gestation in early part of pregnancy, counting is to be done from the first day of last normal menstruation period. And in later month of pregnancy, counting is to be done from expected date of delivery. Okay. Most reliable clinical parameter of gestational age assessment is an accurate last normal menstruation period. Last menstruation period. In some cases, LMP may be inaccurate, unknown, or following the use of oral contraceptives. In the case of OCUs, ovulation may not have occurred 2 weeks after the LMP. So in such a situation, ultrasonography is first trimester pregnancy is more reliable to estimate the gestational age. Complaints. Categorically, the genesis of the complaints is to be noted. Even if there is no complaints, inquiry is to be made about the sleep, appetite, bowel habit, and urination. History of present illness, elaboration of the chief complaints as regard their onset, duration, severity, use of medication, and progress is to be made. History of present pregnancy. The important complications in different trimester of the present pregnancy are to be noted carefully. These are hyperemesis and threatened abortion in first trimester, feature of pielitis in second trimester, and anemia, preeclampsia, antepartum hemorrhage in the last trimester. Number of previous antenatal visit, booking status, immunization status has to be noted. Any medication or radiation exposure in early pregnancy or medical surgical event during pregnancy should be inquired. Obstetric history. This is only related with multigravida. The previous obstetric event are to be recorded chronologically as per the pro forma given on the next page. To be relevant, inquiry is to be made whether she had antenatal and antenatal care before. Number, year and date, pregnancy event, labor event, methods of delivery, puerperium, baby. Number 1, 2011 January, miscarriage at 8th week. Method of delivery, evacuation done. Puerperium, uneventful. Okay, 2011 July, after 6 months I think. After 6 months, C comes to 7 month. July is 7th month. Well covered antenatally uneventful. Uneventful, spontaneous vaginal. Uneventful, baby boy, weight 2.56 kg. Means normal weight. Weight is normal. Cried at birth. Breastfed 6 months, alive and well. It is normal pregnancy. 2013 July. All this thing. Girl weight 2.57 kg. Cried at birth. Breastfed 6 months. Both the baby fully immunized, alive and well. You know, third baby get the immunization, but second baby didn't get. Here, immunization is absent. Okay. So the obstetric history is to be summed up as status of gravida, parity, number of delivery, term, preterm, miscarriage, pregnancy termination, and living issue. An undue long gap between the last and the present pregnancy require careful supervision during pregnancy and labor. The minimum spacing between first birth and subsequent pregnancy should be 2 years. Menstruational history, cycle duration, amount of blood flow, and the first day of the last normal menstrual period are to be noted. Spontaneous. From the LNMP, the expected date of delivery has to be calculated. The first day of the menstruation, being the important event, can be remembered precisely, while the last day of the period is often tailed off and hence may be forgotten. Calculation of the expected date of delivery. This is done according to Naegele's formula. Very important. By adding 9 calendar month and 7 day to the first day of the last menstrual normal period, last day of menstrual period. Okay. Alternatively, one can count back 3 calendar month from the first day of the last period and then 7 days to get the expected date of delivery. The former method is commonly employed. Example: the patient had her first day of last menstrual period on 1st January. By adding 9 calendar month, it come to 1st October and then add 7 days, that is 8th October, which becomes the expected date of delivery. For IVF pregnancy, the date of LMP is 14 days prior to date of embryo transfer to 66 days. Past medical history. Relevant history of past medical illness. Urinary tract infection, tuberculosis is to be elicited. Past surgical history. Previous surgery, general or gynecological, if any, is to be inquired. Family history. Family history of hypertension, diabetes, tuberculosis, blood dyscrasia, known hereditary disease, if any, or twinning is to be inquired. Personal history, contraceptive practice prior to pregnancy, smoking and alcohol habit are to be inquired. LMP may be a withdrawal bleed following pill uses. The first ovulation may be delayed for 4 to 6 weeks. Smoking or alcohol abuse has got some relation with low birth weight of the baby. Previous history of blood transfusion, corticosteroid therapy, any drug allergy, and immunization against tetanus or prophylactic administration of anti-T immunoglobulin are to be inquired. Examination. General physical examination. Obese, birth, thin, nutrition, good, average, poor, height, short stature is likely to be associated with a small pelvis. Thus, in priming gravida, the height is to be measured to screen out the short stature, while an arbitrary measurement of 5 feet is considered as a short stature in Western countries. It is 4 to 7 in India, considering the low average height. Weight should be taken in all cases in an accurate weighing machine. Repeated weight checking in subsequent visits should preferably be done in the same weighing machine. The importance of weight checking has already been discussed. Pallor. The site to be noted are lower palpebral, conjunctiva, dorsum of the tongue, and nail bed. Jaundice. The site to be noted are bulbar, conjunctiva, under surface of the tongue, hard palate, and skin. Tongue, teeth, gum, tonsils. Evidence of malnutrition are evident from glossitis and stomatitis. evidence of any source of infection in the mouth is to be eradicated, at least there be a chance of autogenous infection in purpurium. Neck, neck veins, thyroid gland, lymph gland are looked for any abnormality. Slight physiological enlargement of the thyroid gland occur during pregnancy in 50% of cases. Edema of leg. Both the leg are to be examined. The site for evidence of edema are over the medial malleolus and area anterior surface or lower one third of the tibia. The area is to be pressed with the thumb for at least 5 seconds. Varicosity in the leg. Varicosity in the leg, if any, is to be noted. Causes of edema in pregnancy: physiological preeclampsia, anemia, hypoproteinemia, cardiac failure, nephrotic syndrome. Dependent edema is physiological in pregnancy, but generalized edema or facial edema can be the first sign of edema disease. Physiological edema. The cause of physiological edema is due to increased venous pressure of the inferior extremities by the gravid uterus pressing on the common iliac vein. The feature of the physiological edema are slight degree, usually confined to one leg or more on the right, unassociated with any other feature of the preeclampsia or proteinuria, disappear on rest alone. Other pathologies of cardiac, renal, and hematological are absent. Pulse, blood pressure, disappearance of sound, Korsakoff's 5, rather than muffling of sound, Korsakoff's 4, is the best representation of diastolic pressure during pregnancy. Systemic examination: heart, lung, liver, spleen. Breast examination of breast help to note the presence of pregnancy changes, but also to note the nipples cracked or depressed and skin condition of the areola. The purpose is to correct the abnormality, if any, so that there will be no difficulty in breastfeeding immediately following delivery. Obstetrical examination: abdominal. Tone of the abdominal muscle, presence of any incisional scar or presence of herniation and skin condition of the abdomen are to be looked for. Fundus of the uterus is just palpable above the symphysis pubis at 12 weeks. Vaginal examination is done in the antenatal clinic when the patient attends the clinic for the first time before 12 weeks. It is done to diagnose the pregnancy, to corroborate the size of the uterus with the period of amenorrhea, to exclude any pelvic pathology. Internal examination is, however, omitted in case of previous history of miscarriage. Occasional vaginal bleeding in present pregnancy. Ultrasound examination has replaced routine internal examination. It is more informative and without any known adverse effect. Step of vaginal examination. Vaginal examination is done in the antenatal clinic. The patient must empty her bladder prior to the examination and is placed in the dorsal position with the thigh flexed along with the buttock placed on the foot end of the table. Hand are washed with a soap and sterile glove is put on the examining hand, usually right. Inspection by separating the labia using the left two finger, thumb and index. The character of the vaginal discharge, if any, is noted. Presence of cystocele or uterine prolapse or rectocele is to be elicited. Speculum examination. This should be done prior to bimanual examination, especially when the smear for exfoliative cytology of vaginal swab is to be taken. The bivalve speculum is used. The cervix and the vault of the vagina are inspected with the help of good light source placed behind cervical smear for exfoliative cytology of vaginal swab from the upper vagina, and the presence of discharge may be taken. Bimanual, two finger, index and middle of the right hand are introduced deep into the vagina while separating the labia by left hand. The left hand is now placed suprapubically. Gentle and systematic examination are to be done to note cervix consistency, direction and any pathology. Uterus size, shape, position, consistency. Early pregnancy is the best time to correlate accurately uterine size and duration of gestation. Adnexa, any mass felt through the fornix if the introitus is narrow. If the introitus is narrow, one finger may be introduced for examination. No attempt should be made to assess the pelvis at this stage. Routine investigation: blood, urine, cervical cytology, blood, hemoglobin, hematocrit, ABO, RH grouping, blood glucose, VDRL are done. Serology screening is done in selected cases. Urine protein, sugar, pus cell. If significant proteinuria is found, clean catch specimen and of midstream urine is collected for culture and sensitivity test. To collect the midstream urine, the patient is advised to clean the vulva and to collect the urine in a clean container during the middle of the act of the urination. Presence of nitrite and leukocyte esterase by diagnostic indicate urinary tract infection. Cervical cytology study by Papanikolaou stain has become the routine in many clinics. Papanikolaou spatial investigation, serological test for rubella, hepatitis B virus and HIV, antibody to detect rubella immunity and screening for hepatitis B virus and HIV with consent. Consent is necessary. Genetic screening, maternal serum, alpha fetoprotein, MSAF, triple test at 15 to 18 weeks. The triple test is very important for mother at a risk of carrying a fetus with neurological defect, Down syndrome or other chromosomal anomaly. Ultrasound examination first trimester scan either transabdominal or transvaginal help to detect early pregnancy, accurate data, number of fetuses, gross fetal anomalies, any uterine or adnexal pathology. Use of ultrasound should be selective rather than a routine. Booking 18 to 20 week scan has got advantage in addition to first trimester scan, detailed fetal anatomy survey, and to detect any structural abnormality including cardiac placental localization. Ultrasound examination is also very reassuring to the couple. Ultrasound examination is performed as a routine at 18 to 20 weeks. Though doubt remain about its absolute benefit. Repetition of the investigation. Hemoglobin investigation is repeated at 28 to 36 weeks. Urine is tested for protein sugar at every antenatal visit. Procedure at the subsequent visit. After first visit, another visit or subsequent visits, the procedure are generally checkup is done at interval 4 week up to 28 week, at interval 2 week up to 36 week, and thereafter weekly till delivery. Ideally, this should be more flexible depending on the need and the convenience of the patient. In the developing country, as per WHO recommendation, the visit be curtailed to at least 4. At least 4 visits should be necessary antenatal visit according to WHO. First in second trimester around 16 weeks, between second around 24 to 28 weeks, third 32 weeks, and fourth 36 weeks. Objective to assess fetal well-being, live presentation, position, number of fetuses, anemia, preeclampsia, amniotic fluid volume, and fetal growth. To organize a specialist antenatal clinic for patients with problems like cardiac disease and diabetes. To select time for ultrasonography, amniocentesis, and cornea biopsy when indicated. History to note appearance of any new symptoms. Date of quickening. Examination journal. In each visit, the following are checked and recorded: weight, pallor, edema, lead, blood pressure, abdominal examination, inspection, abdominal enlargement, pregnancy mark, linea nigra, strap, surgical scar, palpation to know the height of the fundus above the symphysis pubis. In the second trimester, to identify the fetus by external ballotment, fetal movement, palpation of the fetal part, and auscultation of the fetal heart sound. In the third trimester, abdominal palpation will be helpful to identify fetal live presentation, position, growth pattern, volume of liquor, and also any abnormality. Examination also helps to detect whether the presenting part is engaged or not. Girth of abdomen is measured at the level of umbilicus. The girth increases by about 2.5 cm per week above beyond 30 weeks and at the term measure about 95 to 100 cm. Other uterine mass or tenderness, fetal activity is also recorded. Vaginal examination. Vaginal examination in the later month of pregnancy beyond 37 weeks with an idea to assess the pelvis is not informative. Pelvic assessment is best done with the onset of labor or just before introduction of labor. Method of vaginal examination for assessment of the pelvis and test for cephalopelvic disproportion are described in chapter 24. Any history of vaginal bleeding contraindicates vaginal examination. Ongoing assessment and counseling is important as prenatal care has an educational opportunity. The woman should be informed about the list of warning signs so that she can contact the hospital or avail the nearby healthcare facility in time. Warning signs, most important. Always ask in university exams or NEET. Next, it's going to be asked 100%, 101%. It will be asked. And short note for university exams. Warning signs: leakage of fluid from vagina, vaginal bleeding, abdominal pain, distressing in nature, headache, visual changes, decrease or loss of fetal movement, fever, rigor, excess vomiting, diarrhea. These are the warning signs. So we have mnemonic for warning signs is these are the warning signs. Halved, H for headache, visual changes, A for abdominal pain, distressing in nature, L for leakage of fluid from vagina, V for vaginal bleeding, E for excess vomiting, fever, rigor, diarrhea, D for decrease or loss of in fetal movement, decreased fetal movement. Okay. Antenatal advice. Another topic. Principle: to counsel the woman about the importance of regular checkup to maintain or improve the health status of a woman to the optimum till delivery by judicious advice regarding diet, drug and hygiene, to improve the psychological and to remove the fear of the unknown by counseling the woman. Diet. The diet during pregnancy should be adequate to provide good health, good maternal health, optimal fetal growth, the strength and vitality required during labor, successful lactation during pregnancy. There is an increased calorie requirement due to increased growth of maternal tissue, fetus, placenta, and increased BMR. The increased calorie requirement is to the extent of 300 over the non-pregnancy state during second half of pregnancy. Generally, the diet in pregnancy should be of woman's choice as regards the quantity and the time. Women with the normal BMI should eat adequately so as to gain the optimum weight 11 kg. Overweight women with BMI between 26 and 29 should limit the weight gain to 7 kg, and obese women BMI more than 29 should gain less weight. Excessive weight gain increase antepartum interpartum complications including fetal macrosomia. This is the pro forma dietary daily allowance for a woman reproductive age, pregnancy and lactation, dietary component, fun time breeding. Okay, the pregnancy diet ideally should be light, nutritious, easily digestible, and rich in protein and mineral and vitamins. In terms of figures, the daily requirement during pregnancy and lactation is given in table. Okay, it is not so an absolute recommendation but simply a guide. Okay, the diet should consist, in addition to the principal food, at least half liter, if not 1 liter of milk, plenty of green vegetable and fruit. The amount of salt should be sufficient amount to make the food tasty. At least half of the total protein should be first class, containing all the amino acid, and majority of the fat should be animal type, which contains vitamin A and D. Dietetic advice should be given with due consideration to the socioeconomic condition, food habit, and taste of the individual. Women with normal BMI should eat as to maintain the scheduled weight gain in pregnancy. The instruction about diet should be reasonable and realistic to the individual woman. Supplementary nutritional therapy. As previously mentioned, there is negative iron balance during pregnancy, and dietetic iron is not enough to meet the daily requirement, especially in the second half of the pregnancy. The supplementary iron therapy is needed for all pregnant mothers from 16 weeks onward. About 10 gram of hemoglobin, 1 tablet of ferrous sulfate containing 60 mg of elemental iron is enough. The dose should be proportionately increased with lower hemoglobin level, 2 to 3 tablets a day. 3 tablets provide 45 mg of absorbable iron, as the essential vitamins are either lacking in the food or are destroyed during cooking. Supplementary vitamins are to be given daily from 20th week onward. Antenatal hygiene. In otherwise complicated cases, the following advices are to be given. Rest and sleep. The patient may continue her usual activity throughout the pregnancy. However, excessive and strenuous work should be avoided, especially in the first trimester and the last 4 weeks. Recreational exercise, prenatal exercise class is permitted as long as she feels comfortable. There is individual variation of the amount of sleep required. However, on an average, the patient should be in bed for about 10 hours, especially in the last 6 weeks. In late pregnancy, lateral posture is more comfortable. Bowel constipation is common and it may cause backache and abdominal discomfort. Regular bowel movement may be facilitated by regular or dietary, plenty of fluid, vegetable milk, or prescribing stool softener at bedtime. There may be rectal bleeding, painful pressure, and hemorrhage due to hard stool. Bathing. The patient should take bath daily, but be careful against sleeping in the bathroom due to imbalance. Clothing, shoes, belt, and pad. The patient should wear loose but comfortable garments. High heel shoes should better be avoided in advanced pregnancy when the center of balance alter. Constricting belts should be avoided. Dental care. Good dental or oral hygiene should be maintained. The dentist should be consulted if necessary. This will facilitate extraction and filling of caries tooth if required comfortably in the second trimester. Care of the breast engorgement may cause discomfort during late pregnancy. A well-fitting brassiere can give relief. Coitus. Generally, coitus is not restricting during pregnancy. Release of prostaglandin oxytocin with coitus may cause uterine contraction. Women with increased risk of miscarriage or preterm labor should avoid coitus if they feel such increased uterine activity. Travel by vehicle having jerk is better to be avoided, especially in the first trimester and the last 6 weeks. The long journey is preferably to be limited to the second trimester. Rail route is preferable to bus route. Travel in pressurized aircraft is safe up to 36 weeks. Air travel is contraindicated in case with placenta previa, preeclampsia, severe anemia, and sickle cell disease. Prolonged sitting in a car or aeroplane should be avoided due to the risk of venous stasis and thromboembolism. Seat belt should be under the abdomen. Smoking and alcohol. In view of the fact that smoking is injurious to health, it is better to stop smoking not only during pregnancy but even thereafter. Heavy smokers have smaller babies and there is also more chance of abortion. Similarly, alcohol consumption is to be drastically curtailed or avoided so as to prevent fetal maldevelopment or growth restriction. Immunization, fortunately, the most of life-threatening epidemics are rare in the developing country. In the immunization in pregnancy is a routine for tetanus. Others are given when epidemics occur or traveling to an epidemic zone for traveling overseas. Live viruses vaccine are contraindicated. Rabies, hepatitis B, A, B vaccine Toxoid can be given as in non-pregnant state. However, in certain circumstances, risk and benefit assessment should be made before making the decision. Tetanus. Immunization against tetanus not only protects the mother but also the neonate. In unprotected immunization, zero point 0.5 ml tetanus toxoid is given intramuscularly at 6-week interval for two such. The first one to given between 16 to 24-week women who were immunized in the past. A booster dose of 0.5 ml IM is given in the last trimester. Prenatal classes are found to be helpful and valuable. Thus, almost all the drugs given to the mother will cross the placenta to reach the fetus. Possibility of pregnancy should be kept in mind while prescribing drug to any woman of reproductive age. General advice: the patient should be persuaded to attend the antenatal checkup positively on the scheduled date of visit. She is instructed to report to the physician even at an early date if some untoward symptoms arise such as intense headaches, disturbed sleep with restlessness, urinary trouble, epigastric pain, vomiting, scanty urination. She is advised to come to the hospital for consideration of admission in the following circumstances: painful uterine contraction at interval of about 10 minutes or earlier is continued for at least 1 hour suggestive of onset of labor, sudden gush of watery fluid per vagina suggestive of premature rupture of the membrane. Active vaginal bleeding, however slight it may be, minor ailment during pregnancy. Nausea, vomiting, backache, constipation, leg cramp, acidity and heartburn, varicose vein, hemorrhoid, carpal tunnel syndrome, round ligament, Tallis, syncope, ankle edema, vaginal discharge. Okay. Nausea and vomiting. Nausea and vomiting, especially in the morning soon after getting out of bed, are usually common in primary gravida. They usually appear following the first or second missed period and subside by the end of the second trimester. 50% women have both nausea and vomiting. 25% have nausea only, and 25% are unaffected. Three main measures can reduce the problem: dietary changes to take dry toast, biscuit, and protein-rich meal. Frequent small food are helpful. Fatty food are avoided. Behavior modification to avoid personal triggering factors the woman can identify herself. This factor: initial supplementation with vitamin B1, B6 is started. Medication are discussed. Backache. It is a common problem in pregnancy. Physiological changes that contribute to backache are joint ligament laxity, weight gain, hyperlordosis, and tilt of the pelvis. Other factors may be faulty posture and high muscular spasm, urinary infection, or constipation. Excessive weight gain should be avoided. Rest with elevation of the leg to flex the hip may be helpful. Improvement of posture: well-fitted pelvic girdle belt, which corrects the lumbar lordosis during walking, and rest in hard bed often relieve the symptom. Massaging the back muscles, analgesic, and rest relieve the pain due to muscle spasm. Constipation. Constipation is quite a common element during pregnancy. Atonicity of the gut due to the effect of the progesterone, diminished physical activity, and pressure of the private uterus on the pelvic colon are the possible explanations. Regular bowel habit may be restored with the advice mentioned earlier. Leg cramps. It may be due to deficiency of diffusible serum calcium or elevation of the serum phosphorus. Supplementary calcium therapy in tablet or syrup after the principal meals may be effective. Massaging the leg, application of local heat, and intake of vitamin B1 daily may be effective. Acidity and heartburn. Heartburn is common in pregnancy due to relaxation of the esophageal sphincter. Patient is advised to overeating and not to go to bed immediately after the meal. Liquid antacid may be helpful. Hyperthermia is common in during pregnancy, can also produce heartburn, especially when the patient is lying down position. Sleeping in semi-reclining position with high pillows relieve the symptom of hyperthermia. Varicose vein. Varicose vein in the leg and vulva or rectum may appear for the first time or aggravate during pregnancy, usually in the later month. It is due to the obstruction in the veins threatened by the pregnant uterus. For leg varicosity, elastic wraps bandage during movement and elevation of the limb during rest can be give symptomatic relief. Specific therapy is better to avoid it. Varicosity usually disappears following delivery. Hemorrhoid. It may cause annoying complications like bleeding or may get prolapsed. Irregular use of laxative to keep the bowel soft. Local application of the hydrocortisone ointment and replacement of the piles if prolapsed are essential. Surgical treatment is better to be withheld as the conditions rapidly improve following therapy. Carpal tunnel syndrome. Women present with pain and numbness in the thumb, index, and middle finger. There is a weakness in the muscle for thumb movement. This is due to compression effect on the median nerve. Physiological changes in pregnancy with retention of excess fluid are the common cause. Treatment is mostly asymptomatic. As splint is applied during sleep time to the slight flex wrist to give relief. Corticosteroid injection or surgical decompression is rarely needed. It resolves spontaneously following delivery. Round ligament pain. Stretching of the round ligament during movement in pregnancy may cause sharp pain in the groin. This pain may be unilateral or bilateral. It is usually felt in second trimester onward. This is more common in right side as a result of dextral rotation of uterus. Pain may be awakening at night time because of sudden roll over movement during sleep. Pain may be reduced by making movement gradual instead of sudden. Local heat application is helpful. Analgesic is rarely needed. Tylism. Increased secretion of saliva is observed during pregnancy. It may be associated with increased intake of starch, and though actual cause is not known. This problem is usually self-limiting and may become overcome by decreasing intake of carbohydrate. It is not associated with any adverse pregnancy outcome. Syncope. It is often seen in a woman following prolonged standing or standing upright abruptly. This is due to pooling of blood in the veins of the lower extremity. There is the effect of compression of the pelvic vein by the gravity uterus also. Other causes may be dehydration, hypoglycemia, overexertion. The woman presents with dizziness or lightheadedness on standing upright abruptly or falling standing for a prolonged period. Syncope usually resolves rapidly on lying in the left lateral position. Syncope in supine position is also managed by resting in lateral recumbent position. Recurrent syncope needs cardiological evaluation. Ankle edema, excessive fluid retention as evidenced by marked gain in weight or evidence of preeclampsia has to be excluded. No treatment is required for physiological edema or orthostatic edema. Edema subsides on rest with slight elevation of the limb. Diuretics should not be prescribed. Vaginal discharge. Assurance of the patient and advice for local cleanliness are all that are required. Presence of any infection, Trichomonas candida, bacteriovaginosis should be treated with vaginal application of metronidazole or miconazole. Exercise in pregnancy. A low impact exercise may be continued throughout the period of the normal pregnancy. However, physiologic changes or pregnancy may restrict certain type of exercise. Limit of moderate intensity physical activity in pregnancy. Exercise should be regular, of low impact, and as a part of daily activity. Exercise should avoid any symptom of breathlessness, fatigue, dizziness. Exercise should be done in cool area without becoming uncomfortable and warm. Prolonged supine position and compression to the uterus or risk of injury fall should be avoided. Contraindication of exercise and limit of physical activity. Fetal growth restriction, cardiac or pulmonary disease, cervical insufficiency, vaginal bleeding, hypertension in pregnancy, risk of preterm labor, values of antenatal care. Most important topic. The value of antenatal supervision is so much tested and recognized that it is needless to stress its importance. It should be borne in mind that successful obstetric outcomes sorry, depend on continued careful supervision, which starts in pregnancy and ends in puerperal period. Inadequacy of one cannot be compensated by other. The chief value are to screen the high-risk cases. Medical disorder, obstetric complications are sorted out at the earliest. Risk assessment is a continued process and not once only. Detection of high-risk factor deserve no credit unless proper steps are taken to rectify it. Cases need to be admitted, investigated, and treated. Pregnancy should be regularly supervised. Casual antenatal visit or inadequate care is worse than no care at all. Efficacy of prenatal care depends on the quality of care given to the woman. Antenatal care is said to be the surgery strategy that the antenatal care is the tactic in obstetrics. One is indispensable from the other to achieve the good result. Care should be thorough and based on individual woman's need. Acceptance of advice during pregnancy. Advice regarding diet, drugs, family planning, guidance, and immunization should are better followed than in the non-pregnant state. It is an opportunity to make the patient realize that childbirth is physiological process, and to boost up the psychology so that the patient finds herself confident during the ordeal of labor. The net effect is marked reduction in maternal mortality, about 1/7, and morbidity. Similarly, there is significant reduction in perinatal mortality and morbidity. Drawback: trifling abnormality may be exaggerated, for which unnecessary medication or risky operative interface is prescribed. Unless quality of care is maintained in the antenatal clinic, the benefit of antenatal care are not obtained. Good antenatal care only cannot reduce maternal neonatal mortality and morbidity unless the woman gets good care during labor and postnatal limitation. Many complications in obstetrics often arise as emergency and without any warning during pregnancy, labor, and puerperium. These are hemorrhage, hypertension, premature rupture of membrane, unexplained intrauterine fetal death, cord prolapse, or shoulder dystocia. These are the important cause of maternal morbidity and mortality in India. Simultaneous viability of emergency obstetric care should be there to combat these complications. Therefore, good antenatal care and efficient EMOC emergency obstetric care are complementary to each other for successful obstetric outcome. Preconception counseling and care. When couple is seen and counsel about pregnancy, its course and outcome well before the time of actual conception is called preconception counseling. Objective is to ensure that women enter pregnancy with an optimal state of health which would be safe for both herself and the fetus. Organogenesis is completed by the first trimester. By the time the woman is seen first in the antenatal clinic, it is often too late to advise because all the adverse factors have already begun to exert their effect. Preconceptual phase is time to identify any risk factor that could potentially affect the perinatal outcome adversely. The woman is informed about the risk factor and at the same time care is provided to reduce or to eliminate the risk factor in an attempt to improve the pregnancy outcome. Virtually, preconceptional counseling is a part of preventive medicine. Preconceptional visit, risk assessment, and education. Identifying of risk factor by detailed evaluation of obstetric, medical, family, and personal history. Risk factors are assessed by laboratory tests and, if required, base level health status including blood pressure is recorded. Rubella and hepatitis immunization in a non-immune woman is offered. Folic acid supplementation 4 mg a day starting 4 weeks prior to conception up to the 12 week of pregnancy is advised. This can reduce the incidence of neurological defect. Maternal health is optimized preconceptionally. Problem of overweight, underweight, anemia, abnormal pap smear are evaluated and treated appropriately. Fear of the incoming pregnancy is removed by preconceptional education. Patient with medical complication should be educated about the effect of the disease on pregnancy and also effect of pregnancy on the disease. In extreme situations, the pregnancy is discouraged. Pre-existing chronic disease, hypertension, diabetes, epilepsy are stabilized in an optimal state by intervention. Drugs used before pregnancy are verified and changed if required so as to avoid any adverse effect on the fetus during the period of organogenesis. For example, anticonvulsant drugs are checked. Warfarin is replaced by heparin. Okay. Oral antidiabetic drugs are replaced with insulin. Women should be urged to stop smoking, taking alcohol, and abusing drug. Addicted woman is given specialized care. Inheritable genetic disease, sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis are screened before conception, and risk of passing on the condition to offspring is discussed. Importance of prenatal diagnosis for chromosomal or genetic disease is discussed. Inheritable genetic disease could be managed either by primary prevention or by secondary prevention. Couple with history of recurrent fetal loss or with family history of congenital abnormality are investigated and counseled appropriately. There may be some untreatable factor. Educational factor. Educational classes include discussion of as regard delivery, timing, method, and possible intervention when to forceps or cesarean delivery. Such prenatal classes are found helpful and valuable. The counseling should be done by primary health care provider. The help of an obstetrician, pediatrician, and geneticist may be required and should be extended. Limitation. Unfortunately, only a small percentage of women take the advantage of preconceptional care. The important reasons are lack of lack of public awareness. Many pregnancies are unplanned. So we have finished our chapter antenatal care, preconceptional counseling and care. Thank you. I'm signing out from this topic. So thank you.